The Compass of Clarity by Eleanor Grace Whitmore. Introduction. There is a moment, often in the quiet of our thoughts, when we ask ourselves, am I headed in the right direction? It's not a loud question, not one that demands urgency like a ringing phone or blaring alarm. It whispers, subtly, like a compass needle nudging ever so slightly, inviting us to notice the deeper truth beneath our everyday choices. That moment, of seeking direction, questioning purpose, and yearning for clarity, is where this journey begins. In an age of relentless noise, constant notifications, and mounting external expectations, clarity has become a rare and precious resource. Our lives are filled with opinions, comparisons, and information, yet we often feel more disconnected and uncertain than ever. We confuse motion with meaning and activity with alignment. We set goals, chase achievements, and strive to be productive, only to find ourselves feeling lost, scattered, or simply out of sync with who we really are. But what if clarity isn't something we chase or wait to stumble upon? What if it's something we can cultivate, intentionally, consciously, and consistently? What if, like a compass, it has always existed within us, waiting to be noticed, trusted, and followed? The Compass of Clarity is a book born from that idea, that every one of us has access to an inner guidance system. This compass doesn't shout, it doesn't overwhelm, it simply points, steadily and faithfully, toward what matters most. Learning to listen to it, however, takes practice. It requires us to unlearn much of what we've been taught about success, identity, and fulfillment. It asks us to clear the mental clutter, reconnect with our core values, and choose with presence. This book is not about quick fixes or rigid formulas. It's not about becoming someone else. Instead, it's about remembering who you are and learning to move through life with greater trust in your own discernment. Each chapter offers a gentle but powerful invitation to realign with your truth. Through stories, insights, reflections, and practical tools, we'll explore the many aspects of clarity, from emotional awareness and mindful communication to intuition, boundaries, and purpose. You'll learn how to quiet the noise within and around you, how to ask better questions when the answers are unclear, and how to move forward even when the path seems foggy. We'll explore the relationship between clarity and courage, clarity and conflict, clarity and connection. You'll discover how even the smallest daily practices can help you stay centered when life feels chaotic. Importantly, the Compass of Clarity is meant to be a companion, not a commandment. Think of it as a friend who walks beside you as you navigate the terrain of your own heart and mind. It won't tell you what to think, but it will help you think more clearly. It won't direct your path, but it will remind you that your direction is always a reflection of your deepest truth. In this journey, there is no perfect clarity. Life is a living, breathing experience that often asks us to decide before everything is certain. But through presence, practice, and trust in your internal compass, you can make decisions that feel aligned, take actions that feel meaningful, and create a life that reflects your essence, not just your obligations. So, take a deep breath. Slow down. There is no rush here. Let's begin this journey of coming home to clarity. One step, one question, one conscious moment at a time. Chapter 1. The Fog of Uncertainty. Before we can follow a compass, we must first acknowledge the fog. It's easy to romanticize clarity, to see it as a clean, shining light slicing through confusion. But the reality is, most of us begin from a place of haze. We wake up with doubts, make decisions with lingering hesitation, and drift through days weighed down by indecision and inner unrest. The fog of uncertainty is real, and it touches us all. Sometimes this fog feels like not knowing what to do next in life. Other times, it manifests as mental noise, the low hum of worry or the sharp sting of comparison. We second-guess ourselves. We wonder if we're enough. We fear choosing wrong. In our attempts to do everything right, we can become emotionally paralyzed, stuck between wanting progress and fearing missteps. This chapter is not about solving that fog. It's about understanding it. Because clarity doesn't begin with perfect answers. It begins with the courage to sit with questions. Uncertainty often stems from two sources: external overload and internal disconnection. Externally, we live in a world that bombards us with opinions, paths, and possibilities. We're told what success looks like, how happiness should feel, and who we're supposed to become. It's no surprise that we internalize this clutter until it clouds our vision. Internally, we may have abandoned our inner knowing. Somewhere along the way, we stopped listening to ourselves. Maybe we dismissed our intuition in favor of logic. Maybe we valued others' approval over our own peace. Maybe we never learned to trust ourselves in the first place. That disconnection creates a kind of inner smog. Even when life looks fine on the outside, we feel a sense of unrest, a quiet ache that says, something's off. That feeling is not failure. It's your compass trying to get your attention. One of the most powerful steps toward clarity is naming the fog. When you feel uncertain, ask yourself, what exactly am I unclear about? Is this confusion caused by too many voices or not enough silence? What do I already know deep down, but am afraid to admit? Most people never pause long enough to consider these questions. They rush to act, to fix, to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But wisdom grows in that space between stimulus and response. When we learn to slow down and sit in the fog, without judgment, without panic, we begin to see. It's important to know that uncertainty isn't a flaw. It's part of the journey. Just as fog gathers after shifts in weather, mental fog often arrives during transitions, career changes, relationship doubts, identity transformations. Rather than fight it, we can learn to work with it. There's a Japanese concept called ma, the meaningful space between things. In music, it's the silence between notes. In design, it's the breath between forms. In life, ma is the pause that allows clarity to emerge. When we stop frantically trying to see the whole path, we often find that the next step becomes visible. Your mind may say, figure it all out right now. But your soul whispers, one breath, one step. Trust the whisper. Here's a practice to try. Next time you feel confused, don't reach for a solution immediately. Instead, take 5 deep breaths. Then write down what you're feeling without trying to fix it. Notice the fog, its texture, its weight, its message. You may be surprised by what clarity begins to reveal itself once you've acknowledged the cloud. Remember, the fog is not your enemy. It is a signal. It's a sign that your compass is awakening, that your deeper self is preparing to speak. Don't silence it. Don't rush it. Just stay. Listen. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how to clear that fog gently, layer by layer. But for now, honor where you are. The journey toward clarity begins not with vision, but with the simple awareness that you can no longer walk blindly. And that is a powerful place to begin. Chapter 2: The Inner Compass. Buried beneath the noise of the world and the chatter of the mind lies a quiet guide, your inner compass. Unlike external maps that tell you where to go based on someone else's destination, your inner compass is deeply personal. It doesn't point north, south, east, or west. It points inward, toward truth. We all have this compass. It's not reserved for the wise, the spiritual, or the experienced. It's part of our human design, woven into the very fabric of who we are. But just like a physical compass can be affected by magnets or interference, our inner compass can be distorted by fear, conditioning, and doubt. The first step to reconnecting with your inner compass is believing that it exists. Many people go through life assuming they need to be told what to do, as if wisdom is something earned only through books, mentors, or trial and error. But while guidance and learning are valuable, there is a deeper knowing within each of us that doesn't come from outside. It arises from stillness, reflection, and honest self-inquiry. This compass speaks not in words, but in feelings. It's the sense of expansion when something is right, the tightening in your chest when something feels off. It's the subtle pull toward a decision you can't quite explain, the resistance you feel when trying to force something not meant for you. You've likely felt it before, even if you didn't know what to call it. Children are deeply connected to their inner compass. They instinctively know what they enjoy, who makes them feel safe, what feels wrong. But as we grow up, we're taught to suppress that knowing in favor of being polite, successful, or accepted. Slowly, we begin to trust the world more than ourselves. The good news is, you never lose your compass. You may stop listening to it, or it may become buried beneath layers of self-doubt, but it never disappears. It's always there, waiting for your attention. So how do you start using it again? 1. Practice listening. Your inner compass speaks in subtle nudges. Start by noticing how your body feels in different situations. Pay attention to when you feel light versus when you feel heavy. Track moments of peace and moments of agitation. These sensations are signals, not flaws to be ignored. 2. Create space. Busyness is one of the biggest barriers to inner clarity. When your schedule is packed and your mind is racing, it's nearly impossible to hear yourself. Even 5 minutes of quiet a day can begin to clear the channel. Journaling, meditating, or simply sitting in silence are powerful ways to tune in. 3. Reflect on past clarity. Think back to a time when you made a decision that felt deeply right. What did it feel like? What helped you trust yourself in that moment? Now think of a time you ignored your instincts and later regretted it. These reflections help you identify the voice of your compass. 4. Don't confuse fear with intuition. Many people mistake fear for intuition. Fear is loud, anxious, and rushed. Intuition is calm, even if it points you towards something uncomfortable. Your compass may guide you out of your comfort zone, but never out of your integrity. Using your inner compass doesn't mean you'll never feel uncertain again. Life will always offer complexity. But having a relationship with your compass means you won't stay lost. You'll be able to course correct, to choose again, to trust that even when the way isn't clear, the next right step will be revealed. In the end, clarity is not found in perfection or control. It is found in presence, in learning to trust the quiet guidance within you more than the noise around you. Your compass is not broken. It is simply waiting for your trust. Let's learn to follow it, step by step. Chapter 3. Silencing the Static. Clarity is not always about adding more knowledge, more advice, more plans. Often it is about subtraction, removing the interference, the static, the internal and external noise that clouds our perception. If your inner compass is your guide, then the static is what throws off its signal. We live in a time of information overload. At any moment, we can scroll through thousands of opinions, trends, and life updates. We carry constant connection in our pockets, yet rarely feel truly connected to ourselves. Every notification, every headline, every unsolicited opinion becomes another layer of noise. And slowly, we lose touch with the sound of our own truth. But not all static comes from the outside. Much of it lives within us. The looping thoughts, the limiting beliefs, the inner critic that won't go quiet. These mental habits become such a normal part of our experience that we don't even realize how much clarity they steal. If we want to live with direction and intention, we must learn to turn down the volume of everything that isn't us. Identifying your static. Start by recognizing what static sounds like in your life. It might be overthinking and overanalyzing every choice, constant self-comparison, especially on social media, trying to meet everyone else's expectations, fearful what-if scenarios looping in your mind, an inner voice that always says, "You're not ready," or "You're not enough." These mental patterns are not your intuition. They are echoes of conditioning, fear, and unprocessed emotion, and they drown out the clarity that already lives within you. Creating space for stillness. Silencing the static doesn't mean fighting your thoughts. It means creating enough space in your inner world so the truth can surface naturally. Imagine a muddy glass of water. If you keep shaking it, it stays cloudy. But if you let it sit, the mud settles and the water clears. Your mind works the same way. Stillness is the environment where clarity grows. Here are a few ways to invite stillness into your daily life. 1. Digital detox. Take short breaks from screens, especially social media. Even 30 minutes of unplugged time each day can reset your nervous system. 2. Mindful breathing. Sit for 5 minutes with your eyes closed and focus only on your breath. Each time your mind wanders, gently bring it back. This simple act is a powerful static clearer. 3. Nature time. Spend time outside without distractions. Let your senses connect with the real world around you. Trees, sky, wind. Nature is clarity's best friend. 4. Thought journaling. Write down your noisy thoughts without editing. Let the chaos spill out on the page. Often, the act of naming your noise softens its grip. Choosing what you consume. We become what we consume. If you constantly take in negativity, drama, or fear, your internal landscape will reflect that. Start asking yourself, is this helping me feel more grounded or more scattered? More aligned or more anxious? Be intentional about the voices you allow into your life. Follow those who inspire calm, truth, and authenticity. Limit exposure to content that stirs comparison, fear, or urgency. You don't have to disconnect from the world, but you do need to protect your peace. Making room for truth. Once the static begins to settle, something beautiful happens. You begin to hear your own voice again. Not the critic, not the doubter, but the one that whispers softly, "This is what matters." You start to feel when something aligns, when it doesn't, and what you truly want. You no longer need constant reassurance, because you're rooted in your own clarity. The path to clarity is not paved with more noise. It is cleared with intentional silence. Turn down the static. Turn up the stillness. And in that quiet space, you'll find a compass already waiting to be heard. Chapter 4. Presence is Power. We often believe clarity will come to us once we solve all our problems, achieve our goals, or figure out the perfect plan. But clarity doesn't wait at the finish line. It lives in the present moment, always here, always now. The trouble is, most of us are rarely present. Our minds constantly wander into the past, where regret or nostalgia reside, or into the future, where anxiety and expectation wait. Meanwhile, the present moment quietly offers us the only place where real clarity, real change, and real peace can begin. Presence is not about perfection. It is not about never being distracted or always feeling calm. Presence is a practice, a choice to return again and again to what is happening right now. When you are present, you are powerful because you can see clearly. You respond instead of react. You connect instead of escape. The cost of disconnection. When we aren't present, we operate on autopilot. We go through motions, not really feeling, not really choosing. We say yes when we mean no. We scroll endlessly. We eat without tasting. We speak without listening. We lose hours, days, even years to a haze of unconscious living. Disconnection dulls our inner compass. It numbs the body's signals, silences intuition, and makes even simple decisions feel heavy. We look for answers outside ourselves because we're not grounded enough to access the wisdom within. The first gift of presence is awareness, and awareness is the birthplace of all clarity. What does it mean to be present? Being present doesn't mean sitting in meditation for hours or escaping to a mountaintop. It simply means being where you are, fully. When you drink your morning tea, are you tasting it or thinking about your to-do list? When someone is speaking, are you truly listening or waiting for your turn to reply? When you're feeling an emotion, are you noticing it or pushing it away? These small, seemingly mundane moments are actually gateways to presence, and therefore, to clarity. Anchoring yourself in the now. Here are a few ways to return to presence in your daily life. 1. Use the body as a portal. Your body is always in the present. You can't breathe yesterday's breath. You can't feel tomorrow's heartbeat. When you feel scattered, place a hand on your chest or belly. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel your feet on the floor. Come home to your body. 2. Name what you notice. A simple way to become present is to mentally note what's happening. I'm washing dishes. The water is warm. My hands are moving. This isn't silly. It's sacred. Describing your reality brings you into it. 3. Do one thing at a time. Multitasking divides your attention and scatters your energy. Choose to do one thing with full presence. Eat without a screen. Walk without headphones. Speak without distractions. You'll be surprised at how much more grounded you feel. 4. Let emotions move through you. When emotions arise, be with them. Don't label them as bad or try to fix them immediately. Presence with your emotional state allows feelings to move, release, and guide you. Ignored emotions often create the mental fog we mistake for confusion. Presence creates possibility. When you return to presence, even the most tangled problem can begin to unravel. You notice subtle truths. You feel your actual desires. You gain the spaciousness to choose consciously instead of reacting reflexively. Clarity isn't some distant treasure you must chase. It's a light that begins to shine when you stop running and simply arrive. This chapter is your invitation to slow down, breathe deep, and trust the power of presence. Your life isn't waiting for you somewhere else. It is here, now. And this moment, this breath, might just be where your clearest next step is waiting. Chapter 5. Truth over Assumption. Clarity often hides behind assumptions. These assumptions, formed from past experiences, societal messages, or unchallenged beliefs, create a lens through which we view our reality. They whisper stories like, "People can't be trusted," or "I'm not capable," or "This always ends badly." Without realizing it, we start living by these stories, not because they're true, but because they've gone unquestioned for too long. Assumptions are mental shortcuts. They help us feel safe by giving us quick answers. But they often lead to cloudy thinking and emotional misalignment. When we act from assumption rather than truth, we react, misjudge, and sometimes hurt ourselves or others unintentionally. To live with clarity, we must become curious about what we believe. We must learn to pause and ask, is this true? Or is this just a story I've accepted without evidence? The weight of unquestioned beliefs. Think of how many decisions in your life have been based on assumptions. This career is the only one that makes sense. They're probably mad at me. I could never do that. That's just how things are. These assumptions aren't facts. They are interpretations, formed by fear, past wounds, or inherited thinking. And the danger is not just in the beliefs themselves, but in how automatically we obey them. We rarely slow down to inspect these inner scripts. Instead, we build lives around them, relationships, careers, habits. Then, when those lives feel unfulfilling, we wonder why. The answer is often simple. We built them on false foundations. The power of truth. Truth doesn't scream for your attention. It doesn't come with flashing lights or dramatic flair. It is quiet, grounded, and stable. When you align with truth, even if it's uncomfortable, it brings peace. When you operate from assumption, even if it's familiar, it brings tension. Truth liberates. Assumptions confine. Here's how to begin untangling the two. 1. Identify the assumption. Next time you feel frustrated or stuck, pause and ask, what am I assuming here? Write it down. Naming the assumption is the first step to loosening its hold. 2. Question the story. Ask yourself, is this always true? What evidence supports this? What if the opposite were true? Often, you'll find that your assumption crumbles under honest inquiry. 3. Replace with grounded truth. Once you've challenged the falsehood, gently replace it with a grounded, empowering truth. For example, I always mess things up becomes, I've made mistakes, but I've also grown and learned. They don't care about me becomes, I don't actually know how they feel unless I ask. Truth isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about living from what's real, not what's feared. Assumptions in relationships nowhere. Do assumptions wreak more havoc than in relationships? We assume what others mean, how they feel, or what they intend. Instead of asking for clarity, we fill in the blanks with our own insecurities or projections. Clarity in relationships comes from courageous communication. It's better to ask, what did you mean when you said that? Can you help me understand how you're feeling? Here's what I assumed. Can you tell me if that's accurate? These questions build bridges instead of walls. They create space for truth, which strengthens connection. Living in alignment. Choosing truth over assumption isn't a one-time act, it's a lifelong practice. It takes courage to confront our mental habits and emotional reflexes, but every time you do, you reclaim a piece of your power. Truth brings clarity, and clarity brings freedom. So the next time your mind offers a fast answer, slow down. Ask, is this actually true, or just something I've believed for too long? The more you practice this, the more your compass points toward reality, not fear, not stories, not doubt, but reality. And in reality, you are always free to choose again. Chapter 6. The Wisdom of Stillness. We live in a world that glorifies movement, fast decisions, constant hustle, endless stimulation. But clarity is rarely found in speed. It lives in stillness, in the quiet, in the pause, in the sacred space between action and reflection. Stillness is not just physical. It's a state of being. You can sit motionless and still have a racing mind. You can be in the middle of a busy day and still be inwardly still. It's not about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening within you. When we pause, we give life a chance to catch up. We allow thoughts to settle. We let emotions rise to the surface. In that silence, the answers we've been chasing often find us. Why stillness is hard. Most people resist stillness. Why? Because it reveals things. When we slow down, we notice what we've been avoiding. Pain, confusion, emptiness, longing. The noise of daily life helps us hide from what we don't want to face. But what we resist continues to control us. And what we face, we begin to understand, and ultimately, to heal. Stillness is not about escaping life. It's about embracing it more fully. It's not passive, it's deeply active. In stillness, we engage with truth, with self, with meaning. It takes courage to be still in a world that tells you to keep running. The language of stillness. Stillness speaks in subtle ways. It doesn't shout. It whispers, something feels off. You need rest. This path isn't yours anymore. Trust yourself. If we're always rushing, we miss these quiet nudges. But when we slow down, we begin to recognize them. They become our inner guidance system, clear, calm, and wise. You may have experienced moments of spontaneous stillness, watching a sunrise, sitting by the ocean, hearing a child laugh. In those moments, time seems to stop, and everything feels right. That's not coincidence. That's clarity arising from stillness. How to invite stillness into your life. Stillness doesn't require special conditions. It simply asks for intention. Here are gentle ways to bring more stillness into your daily rhythm. 1. Morning silence. Start your day without immediately reaching for your phone. Spend the first 5 to 10 minutes in silence. Breathe, stretch, reflect. Set a clear tone for the day ahead. 2. Midday. Pause. Take a quiet break in the middle of your day. Step outside, close your eyes. Check in with yourself. Ask, how am I feeling right now? This helps realign your energy. 3. Evening. Unwinding. Before bed, turn off all devices. Sit with yourself. Journal your thoughts. Let the day settle. Let your mind return to stillness before sleep. 4. Sacred no space. Create no input time in your week. No music, no podcasts, no screens. Just you and your breath. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but with practice, it becomes deeply nourishing. Stillness as a teacher. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life don't come from effort, but from surrender. From letting go of control and sitting with what is. In stillness, you may realize you've been chasing the wrong goal, or that the answer you were seeking was already within you, or that what you thought was a setback was actually a redirection. Stillness teaches you to stop grasping and start listening. The mind says, do something. The soul says, be here. Both have their place. But when you're feeling lost or overwhelmed, it's stillness, not speed, that brings you back to center. Remember, clarity isn't something you force, it's something you allow. Stillness is the invitation. Clarity is the guest. Let there be pauses in your day. Let there be silence in your mind. Let there be space between the noise. And in that space, may you rediscover the wisdom that has been waiting for you all along. Chapter 7. Declutter your mental map. Your mind is a map, constantly drawing paths, predicting outcomes, and planning next steps. It's an incredible tool, capable of organizing ideas, solving problems, and making decisions. But like any map, it can become cluttered. And a cluttered map leads to confusion, overwhelm, and misdirection. Mental clutter isn't always obvious. It builds slowly. Unfinished thoughts, outdated beliefs, unresolved emotions, unnecessary worries. Like open tabs in a web browser, each one consumes a bit of your attention. Eventually, the system slows down. Not because it's broken, but because it's overloaded. To experience clarity, you must clear the mental fog. You must tidy your mind the way you'd clean a messy room, with patience, presence, and purpose. What creates mental clutter? Mental clutter often comes from 5 main sources. 1. Unfinished tasks and decisions. Open loops, like unread emails, delayed conversations, or postponed goals, keep your mind spinning. Each one tugs at your attention, whispering, "Don't forget about me." 2. Outdated beliefs. You may still be living by thoughts you picked up years ago. I have to please everyone, or I'm not creative, or success looks like this. These beliefs take up space that could be used for more truthful, empowering thoughts. 3. Worry and overthinking. Constant forecasting of what might go wrong clutters your present moment. Worrying doesn't solve problems. It multiplies them in your mind. 4. Emotional baggage. Unfelt grief, buried anger, and suppressed fear don't disappear. They linger under the surface, clouding your ability to respond clearly to the present. 5. Information overload. We consume so much, news, social media, podcasts, opinions, that our minds rarely get time to digest, let alone rest. Decluttering in practice. Mental clarity doesn't require an empty mind. It requires an organized one. Here are practical ways to start decluttering. 1. Perform a mental dump. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down everything that's on your mind. Tasks, worries, thoughts, feelings. Don't censor, just empty it all. This simple act helps release mental pressure and brings hidden clutter into the light. 2. Close open loops. Look at your list. Are there tasks you can finish in 5 minutes? Do them. Are there decisions you've been avoiding? Set a time to decide. Closing loops restores your sense of control and frees up mental energy. 3. Question your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Do I still want to carry it? You'll likely find beliefs that no longer serve you. Letting go of even one can bring a powerful sense of freedom. 4. Limit input. Take breaks from constant consumption. Turn off the noise. Choose one source of news or inspiration instead of 20. Your brain needs silence to process and integrate. 5. Journal to process. Emotions. Unprocessed emotions are like cluttered corners of the mind. Journaling helps you name and feel what you've been suppressing. This emotional housekeeping clears pathways for insight and calm. Organizing your inner world. Just as physical space impacts your mood, mental space shapes your clarity. Imagine walking into a clean, peaceful room, everything in its place, nothing weighing on you. That's the gift of a decluttered mind. You start making decisions with more ease. You begin seeing opportunities where there once was overwhelm. Your inner compass becomes sharper, more reliable, more trusted. Mental clarity doesn't mean having zero thoughts. It means having the right thoughts at the right time. Thoughts that serve you, support you, and align with the life you want to live. And that begins with letting go. So pause. Look within. What are you carrying that you don't need anymore? Give your mind space to breathe. In that space, direction will return. Peace will grow. And the road ahead will become easier to see. Chapter 8. The Power of Intentional Questions. Questions shape our lives far more than answers. Every decision, every belief, and every emotion we experience is influenced by the questions we ask, consciously or unconsciously. Yet most people never pause to consider what they're asking or how those questions are steering their thoughts. Ask a disempowering question like, "What's wrong with me?" and your mind will search for flaws. Ask, "What's possible for me today?" And suddenly, your mind scans for opportunities. This is the power of intentional questions. They don't just seek answers. They shape perception, focus, and clarity. In a fog of confusion, it's not always the situation that's unclear. It's the question you're asking about it. Learning to craft better questions can dissolve mental static, shift your mindset, and illuminate your next step. The quality of your life reflects the quality of your questions. Consider these contrasting examples. Disempowering. Why does this always happen to me? What if I fail? What's the worst-case scenario? Empowering. What is this trying to teach me? What's one thing I can do right now to move forward? How can I grow through this experience? The first set leads to worry, blame, and paralysis. The second invites awareness, action, and resilience. Your brain is a search engine. It will respond to whatever query you enter. If you ask it to find problems, it will. If you ask it to find clarity, it will try to do that too. Intentional questions bring you back to center. In moments of stress or uncertainty, intentional questions help you come back to presence. Instead of spiraling, you anchor yourself with curiosity. Here are a few powerful ones to ask yourself regularly. What truly matters to me right now? Am I acting from fear or from alignment? What would my wiser self choose in this moment? Is this thought helping me or hurting me? If I fully trusted myself, what would I do next? These questions bypass surface distractions and tap into your deeper knowing. They help you listen, not just think. Shift from judgment to inquiry. Most people live in a constant loop of self-judgment. I should be further ahead. I'm not doing enough. I always mess things up. But what if you turn those judgments into questions? What does progress look like for me today? What's one small step I can take with what I have? What patterns am I repeating, and how can I shift them? Judgment closes the mind. Inquiry opens it. By becoming more curious, you become less reactive, and when you're less reactive, you become more intentional, more in tune with your inner compass. Create a personal clarity toolkit. To make this practice tangible, try creating your own set of go-to questions. Write them down in a journal or keep them on your phone. Use them when you feel stuck, anxious, or uncertain. Here's a sample toolkit. What am I feeling? And what might that feeling be asking me to notice? What story am I telling myself right now? What outcome am I attached to, and how might letting go of it bring peace? What's one thing I can accept instead of resist today? These simple inquiries can shift entire perspectives. They don't solve every problem, but they change how you relate to your problems, and that's where clarity begins. Your mind will follow your questions. Remember, questions are the compass points of the mind. They don't just lead you toward answers. They determine which answers you're even able to find. They shape your inner dialogue and, over time, the outer direction of your life. So ask with intention, ask with awareness, and most importantly, ask in a way that honors your clarity, your courage, and your deepest truth. Chapter 9. Clarity in Communication. One of the quickest ways to create or lose clarity is through communication. The words we speak, or fail to speak, can build bridges or create walls. Misunderstandings, assumptions, passive aggression, and silence often stem not from bad intentions, but from unclear communication. Clarity within is vital, but clarity with others is just as essential. You may have the best intentions, the purest thoughts, the deepest insight, but if you can't express yourself clearly, or if you fail to listen with openness, that inner clarity remains locked inside, misunderstood or unseen. Clear communication is not about saying more. It's about saying what matters, in a way that aligns with truth, compassion, and integrity. Why we struggle to communicate clearly. There are many reasons we fall into unclear communication. Fear of conflict. We stay vague to avoid upsetting others. Fear of rejection. We sugarcoat our truth to be accepted. Lack of clarity within. We don't know what we feel or want, so we say nothing at all. Habitual defense. We speak to protect rather than connect. Unhealed wounds. We interpret messages through the filter of past pain. The result? Miscommunication, unmet needs, broken trust, and emotional distance. Clear communication requires self-awareness, emotional courage, and respect for yourself and for others. The elements of clear communication. 1. Know what you want to express. Before you speak, ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? Clarity begins with intention. Do you want to connect, express a need, set a boundary, or seek understanding? Speak from that purpose. 2. Speak from I instead of you. Blame breeds defensiveness. Clarity grows from ownership. Instead of, you never listen, try, I feel unheard when I speak and you're on your phone. It keeps the conversation open instead of triggering defense. 3. Be direct but compassionate. You can be honest without being harsh. Clarity isn't cruelty. It's truth with care. Be firm in your message, but gentle in your tone. The goal is connection, not control. 4. Listen without preparing to reply. True clarity is a two-way street. Many people listen while secretly crafting their next argument. Real listening means being fully present, suspending judgment, and making space for someone else's truth, even if it's uncomfortable. 5. Ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming, Ask, "Can you help me understand what you meant?" Or, "Is this what you were trying to say?" This small act of checking in prevents big misunderstandings. 6. Let silence play its part. You don't have to fill every pause. Silence often allows truth to rise. Let it breathe. Communication in relationships. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, communication is the lifeblood. Without clarity, resentment builds silently. Expectations remain unspoken. People begin to guess rather than ask. Over time, distance grows where connection once lived. To bring clarity into relationships, express needs, not ultimatums. Clarify boundaries early, not after they're crossed. Share appreciation often, not just complaints. Communicate regularly, not just when there's a problem. A relationship where people feel safe to speak truthfully is a relationship where clarity thrives. Clarity begins before the conversation. Before any difficult or important conversation, take time to ground yourself. Ask, "What do I really want from this conversation? What emotions am I bringing in? Am I open to their perspective or just trying to win?" Clarity in communication is a reflection of inner clarity. The more grounded you are, the more effective your message will be. Speak to be understood. Listen to understand. At its core, communication is not about being right. It's about being real. When both parties speak honestly and listen deeply, clarity arises naturally. Confusion fades. Hearts open. Problems dissolve. Words are powerful tools. Use them with care. Use them with courage. Use them to light the way forward. When communication is clear, connection is restored. And with connection, clarity becomes a shared compass. Chapter 10. Navigating Emotional Storms. Clarity is easiest when life is calm. When everything flows smoothly, we can think clearly, choose wisely, and feel balanced. But life isn't always calm. At times, it comes crashing down in waves of emotion: anger, fear, sadness, confusion. And those moments can feel like emotional storms that obscure everything. In such times, clarity may feel impossible. But the truth is, these storms don't destroy your inner compass. They simply cover it. Just like the sun behind thick clouds, your clarity is still there, waiting for the storm to pass and the air to clear. This chapter is about learning to navigate those emotional storms, not by avoiding or suppressing them, but by meeting them with presence, compassion, and perspective. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that certain emotions are bad. We're told not to be too sensitive, not to cry, not to get angry. As a result, we suppress our feelings or try to fix them too quickly. But emotions are not problems. They are signals, carrying important information about our needs, boundaries, and values. Anger may signal a boundary has been crossed. Sadness may point to a loss or unmet need. Anxiety may highlight uncertainty or misalignment. When we label these emotions as wrong, we miss the clarity they offer. To gain insight during an emotional storm, we must first accept its presence. Step 1. Pause and breathe. The moment an intense emotion arises, the first instinct is often to react. We lash out, shut down, or spiral into overthinking. The key is to pause, even if just for a few seconds. Take slow, deep breaths. Breathe into your body. Let the breath anchor you so that you don't get swept away. This pause creates a gap, a moment where choice becomes possible. Step 2. Name what you feel. Unlabeled emotions create confusion. When you name what you're feeling, you reduce its power over you. Say it aloud or write it down. I feel overwhelmed. I'm angry. I feel insecure. Naming is grounding. It turns chaos into something you can hold and examine. Step 3. Ask what the emotion is pointing to. Every emotion has a root cause. Ask, what triggered this? What need isn't being met? What belief is being challenged? You may find that what you're feeling isn't even about the current situation. It may be an old wound resurfacing. Understanding the source helps you respond rather than react. Step 4. Feel without judgment. Let the emotion rise and move through you. Cry. Journal. Take a walk. Sit in silence. Emotions are energy. They're meant to move. When you allow them to pass naturally, clarity follows. Suppression keeps you stuck. Expression sets you free. Step 5. Revisit the situation with fresh eyes. Once the emotion has calmed, return to the situation. Ask, what is really true here? What matters most now? What is the wisest action I can take? This is where clarity lives, not in the storm, but on the other side of it. When the sky clears, you see things as they really are, not as your emotion painted them in the moment. Emotional maturity brings lasting clarity. True clarity isn't about never feeling lost or overwhelmed. It's about knowing how to find your center again. It's about recognizing that emotional storms are temporary, but your ability to navigate them is lasting. You become emotionally mature when you stop fearing your feelings and start listening to them. When you stop reacting and start responding. When you stop drowning in the storm and start learning how to sail through it. Let your emotions come. Let them speak. Then let them pass. And when they do, you'll find your clarity waiting, calm, steady, and guiding you forward once more. Chapter 11. Aligning with values. When you feel unclear, lost, or disconnected, it's often not because you lack direction. It's because you've lost alignment. Alignment means living in harmony with your core values. It's when your thoughts, words, and actions reflect what matters most to you. When you're out of alignment, life feels heavy, scattered, and unfulfilling. When you're in alignment, life flows with more ease, purpose, and clarity. Your values are the compass points of your life. They're not goals or preferences. They are the deep-rooted principles that define who you are and what truly matters to you. But here's the thing. Most people have never consciously defined their values. They live by inherited beliefs, what their family, culture, or society told them they should care about. They chase success, status, or approval, only to feel empty once they arrive. Clarity is not just about choosing the right path. It's about choosing the path that aligns with your inner truth. Discovering your core values. To align with your values, you must first name them. Begin by asking yourself, what truly matters to me? What makes me feel most alive and fulfilled? What qualities do I admire most in others? When have I felt most like myself? As you reflect, look for recurring themes. You might notice values such as authenticity, living true to yourself; integrity, doing the right thing even when it's hard; freedom, having the space to choose and create; connection, meaningful relationships and shared presence; growth, constant evolution and learning; service, making a difference in others' lives; peace, emotional and spiritual calm; creativity, expressing your unique voice. Your top 3 to 5 values form your foundation. When honored, they create clarity and strength. When ignored, they create tension and confusion. The signs. You're out of alignment. Misalignment doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. You feel drained by your job, even though it looks good on paper. You say yes when you mean no, and then feel resentful. You feel disconnected from yourself in relationships. You keep achieving, yet something still feels missing. You frequently ask, "What's wrong with me?" instead of, "What am I missing?" The problem may not be you. The problem may be that you're living a life that doesn't reflect your values. Be living in alignment step by step 1. Make aligned choices. Before making decisions, ask, does this honor my values? If connection is a value, does this relationship nurture it? If freedom is a value, does this job support it? If peace is a value, does this habit protect it? 2. Set boundaries around your values. You can't live in alignment if your boundaries are weak. If honesty is a value, don't tolerate dishonesty. If creativity is a value, make time for it. Boundaries aren't walls, they're commitments to your truth. 3. Reflect regularly. Once a week, ask, where did I honor my values? Where did I betray them? What small shift can I make to realign? This practice keeps your compass sharp and your path purposeful. 4. Release what doesn't fit. As you grow clearer, you may need to let go of roles, relationships, or routines that no longer align. This is not selfish, it's sacred. Letting go creates space for a life that reflects who you really are. The power of alignment. When you align with your values, decision-making becomes easier. Confidence replaces confusion. Your yes has more energy. Your no carries more peace. You stop chasing clarity outside of yourself because you've built a life that reflects it from within. You don't need a perfect plan. You need an honest compass. Let your values be that compass. Let them shape your days, your work, your relationships, and trust that the more you align with what truly matters, the more your path will illuminate before you, step by conscious step. Chapter 12. Intuition as a Guide. There is a quiet voice within each of us that knows. It speaks not in words, but in feelings, in nudges, in an unexplainable sense of yes or no. This voice is your intuition. It is not loud, flashy, or forceful. It doesn't shout to be heard over the noise of the world. Instead, it waits patiently for stillness, for presence, for you to tune in. While logic and analysis have their place, intuition is a deeper form of knowing, one that bypasses rational explanation and goes straight to the heart of truth. We are taught from a young age to rely on evidence, data, and external validation. We are encouraged to seek permission and follow instructions. Intuition, by contrast, doesn't follow rules. It defies formulas. It simply is. And yet, when we reflect on the moments we've truly trusted ourselves, those pivotal times we made a bold decision or avoided a subtle danger, intuition was often the guide. It's not mystical or magical. It's deeply human. It's an internal compass forged from experience, emotion, subconscious pattern recognition, and soul wisdom. The challenge for many is not that they lack intuition, but that they've stopped listening to it. In a culture obsessed with productivity, external approval, and endless information, the inner voice can be drowned out by fear, doubt, and overthinking. But no matter how buried it becomes, it never disappears. It waits beneath the surface, ready to lead you home when you're ready to follow. Listening to your intuition begins with presence. When you're constantly rushing or multitasking, the signal is faint. But when you slow down and return to your body, you begin to feel its language. A tightening in your stomach when something feels off. A wave of calm when something feels right. A sudden inspiration or unexpected clarity when you least expect it. These are the whispers of your inner guide. They don't always come with reasons, but they often come with resonance. A deep sense of alignment. Trusting intuition takes practice. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes your intuition will lead you away from what's familiar, from what others expect, from the logical choice. It may guide you to say no when everyone else says yes. It may nudge you to take a leap when your mind demands more proof. This is where courage comes in. To follow intuition is to surrender control, to trust what you feel more than what you can prove. And while this path can be uncertain, it is also deeply liberating. There will be times when you misinterpret your intuition, mistaking fear for instinct or desire for truth. That's okay. Intuition isn't about being perfect, it's about being attuned. The more you pay attention, the more accurate your sense becomes. It's like any muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it grows. Begin noticing how your body responds to people, choices, and environments. Reflect on times you followed your gut and what resulted. Allow yourself to learn the rhythm of your inner knowing. Living from intuition doesn't mean abandoning reason. It means integrating it with a deeper wisdom. It means using both mind and heart. Logic helps us navigate the map. Intuition helps us decide where to go. Together, they form a powerful partnership. But in a world dominated by overthinking, letting intuition take the lead can be a radical act of self-trust. When you begin honoring your intuition, something magical happens. Life feels more fluid. Decisions come with less struggle. You begin to move in rhythm with something larger than yourself, a current of alignment that carries you forward with grace. You stop seeking so many answers outside and start discovering them within. Your clarity becomes less about control and more about connection. So take a breath. Get quiet. Feel what's there beneath the noise. Trust the part of you that already knows. Let intuition be your guide, not just in big moments, but in the small, sacred choices of every day. It is always with you, always ready. All it asks is that you listen. Chapter 13. Boundaries that illuminate. Boundaries are not walls. They are not cold, rigid lines meant to keep others out. Rather, they are conscious expressions of self-respect, clear indicators of where you end and the world begins. Boundaries are a form of clarity. They illuminate what you value, what you need, and what you will or will not allow. In their truest form, boundaries are not about controlling others, but about protecting your inner peace and guiding you toward relationships and environments that nourish rather than deplete. Many people associate boundaries with conflict or rejection, assuming that setting limits will push others away or make them seem selfish. But the opposite is true. Healthy boundaries foster deeper connection, not distance. When you express yourself clearly and consistently, others know where you stand. They understand how to interact with you in a way that honors both your needs and theirs. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They are the structure in which love can grow safely and sustainably. Lack of boundaries often leads to resentment, burnout, and confusion. When you say yes to things you don't truly want, or when you absorb others' emotions without checking in with your own, you begin to feel fragmented. Your clarity fades as you prioritize pleasing others or avoiding discomfort over honoring your truth. Over time, this disconnection compounds, leaving you drained and uncertain about who you are and what you want. Reclaiming clarity begins with reclaiming your space, physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically. The first step toward setting boundaries is self-awareness. You must know what feels right and what feels wrong. Your body often knows before your mind does. A tightening in your chest, a sudden wave of irritation, a sense of dread. These are signs that a boundary is being tested or ignored. Pay attention to these signals. They are messages from your inner compass asking to be acknowledged. Once you identify a boundary that needs to be set, the next step is expressing it with clarity and compassion. This can be challenging, especially if you're not used to advocating for yourself. But remember, boundaries are not ultimatums. They are simply honest statements about your limits and expectations. You can say, "I need some time to recharge this weekend," or "I'd prefer not to talk about that topic," or "I can't take that on right now." These are acts of self-care, not selfishness. Enforcing boundaries is where many people struggle. It's one thing to declare a limit, but another to uphold it when it's tested. Others may resist or push back, especially if they benefited from your lack of boundaries in the past. Stay grounded. You are not responsible for how others react. You are only responsible for staying true to your values. The more consistently you hold your boundaries, the more natural they become, and the more others learn to respect them. It's also important to recognize that boundaries evolve. What served you last year may not serve you now. As you grow, your clarity sharpens, and so should your boundaries. They are living expressions of your self-respect, not fixed rules. Revisit them often. Adjust them as needed. Let them reflect who you are becoming. In time, setting boundaries becomes less about defense and more about direction. They become a tool not just for saying no, but for saying yes, to peace, to purpose, to presence. You stop pouring energy into what drains you and begin investing it into what aligns. Your life becomes clearer not because it's simpler, but because it's more honest. Boundaries illuminate the path to clarity. They protect your time, your energy, your joy. They remind you and the world of what matters most. And in honoring them, you begin to stand taller, speak truer, and walk forward with a deeper sense of self-trust. Chapter 14. The Courage to Choose. Every moment of clarity eventually asks for action. Knowing what matters, identifying what aligns, and sensing the truth within you all lead to a single point of decision: the choice. And while clarity can bring understanding, peace, and insight, it is the courage to choose that transforms clarity into change. Without action, clarity becomes potential left unrealized. It stays dormant, waiting patiently for your willingness to move. But making choices, especially meaningful ones, requires courage, because every choice is also a letting go. Choosing one path means releasing another. It means stepping into the unknown without full guarantees. It means risking failure, rejection, discomfort, and vulnerability. And that's why so many people stay stuck, not because they lack clarity, but because they fear the weight of commitment. They fear closing the door on other options. They fear being wrong, and so they hesitate, circle, delay. But clarity without action is like a compass in a drawer. Until you use it, you're not really going anywhere. The truth is, there is no such thing as a perfect decision. Every path will carry challenges. Every option will bring a mix of growth and discomfort. Waiting for the flawless choice often means never choosing at all. The courage to choose does not come from certainty. It comes from trust. Trust that you can handle what unfolds. Trust that you will adjust as needed. Trust that your inner compass will continue to guide you, even if you take a few wrong turns. We often believe that the biggest decisions are the most difficult. Choosing a career, ending a relationship, moving to a new place. And yes, those moments do require deep courage. But the small daily choices shape your life just as powerfully. Choosing to rest when the world says hustle. Choosing to speak up when silence feels safer. Choosing to be kind to yourself in moments of self-doubt. These choices, repeated over time, become the architecture of a life built in alignment with truth. Courage, like clarity, is a skill that can be strengthened. You don't have to leap into every decision with unshakable confidence. You only need a willingness to take the next step. Courage grows in motion. It doesn't arrive fully formed. It emerges as you move forward, moment by moment, choice by choice. With each act of aligned decision-making, you begin to rewrite your inner narrative. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids or overthinks, and begin to see yourself as someone who acts with intention. Fear will always walk beside you when you choose something meaningful. That's not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're alive. It means you care. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to walk with it, holding clarity in one hand and courage in the other. And the beautiful truth is, once you begin choosing from a place of alignment, fear tends to quiet. It no longer drives you. It walks behind you, no longer in charge. Sometimes the choice you need to make won't be obvious. It may be a choice between two good things, or between the familiar and the liberating, or between who you've been and who you're becoming. In those moments, come back to your values. Come back to your breath. Come back to the wisdom of your body. Let presence, not pressure, guide you. Remember, you can course correct. You can revise. You can learn. But you cannot grow without choosing. The courage to choose is a sacred act. It honors your truth, your journey, and your evolution. It's how clarity becomes reality. So when the moment comes, and it always does, don't wait for perfection. Don't wait to feel fearless. Just take the step that feels most aligned with your heart. That step may be small, but it carries the full weight of your becoming. Chapter 15. Vision Beyond Obstacles. Obstacles are part of every journey. No matter how clear your vision or strong your intention, life will present you with challenges, delays, and moments of doubt. These obstacles may take the form of external events, rejections, failures, closed doors, or internal struggles like fear, insecurity, or fatigue. When we face these blocks, clarity can begin to fade, and our vision may blur. We start to question whether the path we chose is right, whether our goals are realistic, or whether we're even capable of continuing. But it's precisely in these moments that our vision must grow deeper roots, not in ideal conditions, but in the soil of persistence, resilience, and belief. True clarity is not about avoiding obstacles. It's about learning to see beyond them. It's the ability to hold the big picture when the details get messy, to remember your why when the how feels uncertain, and to trust the process when the results haven't yet arrived. A clear vision is not a fragile thing. It's not easily broken by failure or delay. In fact, the obstacles themselves can become stepping stones, if you allow them to refine rather than define your path. The mind, when faced with difficulty, tends to narrow its focus. It becomes problem-oriented, consumed by what's wrong or what could go wrong. This tunnel vision, while natural, can distort your perception. You begin to see only the block, not the road that continues beyond it. But clarity asks you to zoom out, to expand your awareness, to view the obstacle not as the end, but as a temporary curve in a much longer, richer road. The obstacle is not the whole story. It's a chapter, not the conclusion. Holding vision beyond obstacles requires emotional maturity. It's the discipline of staying centered when everything feels out of sync. It means remembering that not all movement is visible, and that progress is sometimes happening beneath the surface. Seeds don't sprout the moment they're planted. Muscles don't grow the moment they're stretched. The same is true for inner growth. The obstacle you're facing might be the very thing shaping your strength, deepening your resolve, and carving out your clarity more fully than comfort ever could. To see beyond obstacles also means letting go of attachment to how things should unfold. Often, the clarity we seek is blocked not by the situation itself, but by our resistance to it. We have a picture in our mind of how things must look, how people should respond, or how quickly success should come. When reality doesn't match that image, we feel frustrated or defeated, but clarity returns when we release the grip of control and choose flexibility. Your vision is not defined by the details. It is carried by the energy behind it, by your commitment to keep going, to adapt, to trust. You must also learn to ask better questions in the face of obstacles. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of saying, "This is the end," ask, "What's the next possible step?" In doing so, you transform the obstacle from a barrier into a bridge. You begin to engage with the challenge rather than collapse under it. You become a creator, not just a responder. A seeker, not just a survivor. Every visionary has walked through obstacles. Every great story includes moments of near defeat. What separates those who succeed is not that they avoid hardship, but that they hold their vision with unwavering faith, even when the path is hard to see. That faith, fueled by clarity, becomes the light in the dark, the steady drumbeat of progress, the quiet voice that says, "Keep going. This isn't the end." Let your clarity be greater than your fear. Let your vision rise above your struggle. The obstacle is real, but so is your strength. And what lies beyond it is often more powerful, more purposeful, and more profound than you can yet imagine. Chapter 16. Clarity and Conflict. Conflict is an inevitable part of human relationships. Whether it's a disagreement with a loved one, a clash with a colleague, or a confrontation with yourself, conflict arises whenever two differing truths meet. And while conflict often feels messy, emotional, and uncomfortable, it can also be one of the greatest teachers of clarity if we choose to approach it with awareness rather than avoidance. Most people view conflict as something to fear or escape. We associate it with pain, rejection, or broken connection. So we suppress what we really feel, avoid difficult conversations, or lash out in ways that only deepen the divide. But conflict itself isn't the problem. It's how we handle it. When approached consciously, conflict can become a mirror. It shows us where we are unclear, where we are out of alignment, or where unspoken needs and boundaries have been neglected. In that way, conflict becomes a powerful gateway to deeper truth. Clarity in conflict begins with the willingness to pause before reacting. Emotions often rise quickly in moments of disagreement, and if we speak or act from that charged space, we usually create more confusion than connection. Instead, the wise path is to take a breath, ground yourself, and ask, what is really going on here? Beneath the surface-level issue, there is almost always something deeper. A hurt, a fear, an unmet need. When you can name that truth, first for yourself, then for the other person, the entire tone of the conflict can shift from confrontation to understanding. One of the most powerful practices in conflict is to listen with the intent to understand, not to win. Often, we approach disagreements as if they are battles to be won, forgetting that clarity isn't about proving who is right, but uncovering what is real. When we listen only to defend our position or prepare our rebuttal, we miss the heart of what the other person is trying to express. But when we listen fully, with openness and curiosity, we create space for connection to emerge, even in the tension. Speaking with clarity in conflict also requires courage. It means being honest about your feelings without blaming or attacking. It means expressing your needs clearly, without expecting the other person to read your mind. Saying, "I feel hurt when this happens," is very different from saying, "You always do this." The former invites conversation. The latter invites defense. Clarity is not about diluting your truth. It's about expressing it in a way that builds bridges instead of walls. At times, clarity in conflict means recognizing when resolution is not immediately possible. Some disagreements require space, perspective, or time to heal. And some conflicts may reveal deeper incompatibilities that ask you to lovingly step away. Clarity doesn't always lead to agreement, but it always leads to integrity. It helps you see whether a relationship can grow or whether it's asking for release. It's also essential to have inner clarity when facing conflict. Ask yourself, what do I really want here? Is it to be right, to be heard, to be safe, or to be seen? Often, what we think is a conflict with another is really a deeper conflict within ourselves, a war between our desire to express and our fear of consequence, between our need for connection and our need for authenticity. The more inner clarity you have, the more grounded you will be in the heat of disagreement. In the end, conflict does not have to be destructive. When navigated with presence, honesty, and compassion, it can actually bring people closer. It can clear old misunderstandings, deepen mutual respect, and strengthen emotional trust. Clarity in conflict means choosing truth over ego, understanding over assumption, and peace over pride. The next time you find yourself in conflict, remember, this too is a moment for clarity. A moment to rise above reaction and into awareness. A moment not to fight harder, but to see deeper. And from that place, resolution is not only possible, it becomes transformational. Chapter 17. When the Path is Hidden. There is a quiet truth many people come to realize after years of burnout, people-pleasing, or emotional exhaustion. Not everything deserves your energy. Your time, your attention, your emotional presence. These are sacred resources. And just like water from a well, if they are poured out too freely, without intention or replenishment, they eventually run dry. Boundaries, then, are not just practical tools for managing relationships. They are sacred commitments to honor the energy that fuels your clarity, creativity, peace, and purpose. When you treat your energy as sacred, your entire approach to life begins to shift. You no longer say yes out of guilt or fear of disappointing others. You no longer tolerate environments or conversations that drain your spirit. You stop sacrificing your inner alignment just to keep the outer world comfortable. Sacred energy invites you to be deeply discerning, not reactive or defensive, but conscious and wise in how you give of yourself and how you protect your inner space. For many people, setting boundaries feels unfamiliar or even wrong. They worry they'll come across as rude, selfish, or uncaring. But boundaries are not barriers against love. They are the very conditions that allow love to grow in healthy soil. When you express your limits honestly and kindly, you create a container in which relationships can flourish without confusion or resentment. You define the space where mutual respect, clear communication, and emotional safety can exist. The clarity that arises from sacred boundaries is profound. When you know what you will and will not allow, you move through life with a sense of groundedness. You no longer need to over-explain or defend yourself constantly. Your no becomes as powerful and loving as your yes. You stop scattering your energy across too many obligations and instead begin investing it into the people, projects, and purposes that truly align with your soul. Boundaries also help you reclaim your rhythm. In a world that demands constant accessibility, always-on productivity, and endless engagement, boundaries remind you that rest is necessary, solitude is healing, and silence is golden. They allow you to pull back from the noise, return to yourself, and remember what matters. Without this sacred withdrawal, clarity becomes hard to maintain. You begin to confuse urgency with importance, noise with truth, movement with meaning. Creating sacred boundaries begins with self-awareness. You must be willing to check in with yourself regularly. Notice when you feel depleted after a conversation or drained by a commitment. These signals are not signs of weakness. They are wisdom. Your body and spirit are always speaking to you about what's aligned and what's not. The more you listen, the more you know where to draw the line. There is also a kind of sacred confidence that comes with enforcing boundaries. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. You realize that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is essential. And in that trust, you find a deeper sense of power. You're no longer waiting for others to validate your needs or guess your limits. You articulate them clearly. You model self-respect, not just for yourself, but for others to follow. In honoring your boundaries, you give others permission to do the same. You create a ripple effect of clarity, one that shifts relationships from dependency to mutuality, from imbalance to harmony. You no longer fear rejection for standing in your truth, because you've come to understand that anyone who respects your boundaries is someone worthy of your energy. And anyone who doesn't is simply not aligned with your sacred path. Your energy is your life force. Your presence is your power. Treat both as sacred. Protect them with boundaries not born from fear, but from love. Love for yourself, love for your purpose, and love for the clarity that sustains you. In doing so, you become not only more grounded, but more luminous, more intentional, and more free. Chapter 18, Reflections that Refine. There is a quiet, often overlooked truth woven into the fabric of life. The universe is not indifferent. It listens, it mirrors, and it responds. Not always in the ways we expect, but always in alignment with the energy we embody. The thoughts we carry, the emotions we nurture, the intentions we set, and the actions we take, they all send out signals. And like ripples in a vast ocean, those signals travel outward and return to us, sometimes subtly, sometimes powerfully, but always with resonance. This is not about superstition or wishful thinking. It is about recognizing the magnetic relationship between inner alignment and outer experience. Many people move through life believing that things just happen to them, that they are at the mercy of fate, chance, or external circumstances. But when you begin to observe closely, you'll notice patterns. You'll see how your inner state tends to shape your outcomes. When you operate from fear, fear tends to follow. When you lead with trust and clarity, doors you couldn't have predicted begin to open. It's not magic, it's energetic alignment. The universe is not punishing or rewarding you arbitrarily. It is responding to the clarity or confusion you carry within. The truth is, you are always in conversation with the universe. Your beliefs are your language. Your focus is your frequency. What you expect, you invite. What you dwell on, you amplify. And what you align with, you begin to attract. This doesn't mean that hardship disappears when your mindset is positive. Life is still life. But even in challenge, your alignment shapes how you move through it, and what emerges on the other side. When your energy is scattered, when you doubt your worth, when you make decisions out of fear or scarcity, the universe mirrors that confusion. Opportunities slip by unnoticed. Relationships feel unsteady. Peace feels distant. But when you clarify your vision, embody your truth, and begin making aligned choices, no matter how small, life begins to respond in kind. Synchronicities arise, resources show up, encounters become meaningful. You feel supported, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are finally in flow with it. To receive with clarity, you must give with clarity. If you long for connection, be open and present with others. If you seek abundance, cultivate gratitude and generosity. If you want peace, release what stirs your inner conflict. The universe responds not just to your words, but to your state of being. It's not enough to want something. You must become the version of yourself who is ready to receive it. This requires trust. It requires patience. And most importantly, it requires responsibility. The willingness to shape your internal world, knowing it is reflected back to you in the external one. It also means letting go of the illusion of control. You cannot dictate how or when everything unfolds, but you can choose how you show up. You can choose your energy, your mindset, your attitude. And that choice shifts everything. It aligns you with a different current, a current that doesn't force, but flows, that doesn't chase, but attracts, that doesn't grasp, but allows. There will be moments of doubt. There will be times when the response you hoped for doesn't arrive in the way you imagined. But keep going. Keep aligning. Keep choosing clarity, even when the path feels unclear. The universe is always listening, always adjusting, always responding. Your job is not to manipulate the response, but to master your vibration, to become so rooted in your own clarity that what returns to you can't help but reflect it. Trust the dialogue. Trust your power. Trust that when you shift within, the world around you begins to shift too. You are not separate from the universe. You are an expression of it. And when you live from that truth, life becomes less about control and more about co-creation. Chapter 19, The Daily Compass. In a world addicted to motion, stillness is often misunderstood. We are taught that to be still is to be unproductive, lazy, or passive. But the truth is, stillness is not the absence of action. It is the presence of awareness. It is not inaction, but deep listening. Beneath all the rushing, planning, reacting, and striving, stillness waits patiently, offering something that can never be found in chaos: wisdom. The kind of wisdom that isn't loud or dramatic, but clear, steady, and true. When everything else is stripped away, when you sit in silence with yourself, you begin to hear the deeper voice, the one that doesn't speak from fear, ego, or expectation, but from your core. We often seek wisdom in books, teachers, and experiences, and rightly so. Learning is vital, but there is a quieter wisdom within that can only be accessed through stillness. This wisdom cannot be taught, only remembered. It is the part of you that already knows, that always knew, long before life's noise made you forget. Stillness helps you return to that knowing. It clears the fog, quiets the static, and reveals the subtle truths you've been carrying all along. In stillness, you are no longer performing for the world. You are no longer editing yourself, responding to expectations, or rushing to the next task. You are simply present. And in that presence, clarity rises to the surface. Questions find space to breathe. Emotions are acknowledged without judgment. Patterns become visible. And with that awareness comes wisdom. Not just about what to do, but about who you are. Stillness is not always comfortable. In fact, it can be profoundly confronting. When we stop moving, we are forced to feel. And often, what we feel is the very thing we've been trying to outrun: grief, confusion, loneliness, fear. But here is the paradox. Only by feeling these things can we heal them. Only by meeting them with compassion can we release them. Stillness is not what causes the discomfort, it's what reveals it. And in revealing, it offers a doorway to peace. Our modern lives are designed to keep us distracted. Endless screens, schedules, and noise offer 1,000 ways to avoid ourselves. But deep down, something in us yearns to slow down, to rest, to listen. That yearning is your soul calling you home. And stillness is how you answer. Creating moments of stillness doesn't require hours of meditation or retreating to the mountains. It begins with intention. A few minutes of silence in the morning, a pause before responding, a breath before deciding. These tiny windows of stillness are powerful. They bring you back to the present, where truth lives. And the more you practice them, the more natural they become. Stillness is also a sacred space for integration. After the lessons, the experiences, the insights, stillness allows your heart and mind to catch up, to weave meaning, to grow roots. Without integration, we become seekers addicted to input, but disconnected from wisdom. Stillness grounds what we've learned and transforms it into embodied knowing. In the stillness, you begin to see that wisdom was never far away. It was simply waiting for you to slow down, to stop grasping for answers and start allowing them to arise, to stop filling every moment and start inhabiting them fully. The wise do not rush to speak, act, or fix. They listen. They observe. They wait until clarity comes, and when it does, they move from depth, not urgency. So if life feels loud, uncertain, or overwhelming, return to stillness. Let it hold you. Let it teach you. You don't need to figure everything out. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to pause long enough to hear the wisdom already within. Stillness is not a detour on the path to clarity. It is the path. Step into it gently, and let it guide you back to what you already know. Chapter 20. A Life of Clarity. There will always be reasons not to shine. Days when you feel tired, uncertain, unseen. Moments when the weight of the world, or even just the weight of your own thoughts, makes you want to shrink back, play small, disappear. It's tempting, especially when life feels heavy, or when people misunderstand your light, to dim yourself to fit in, to avoid judgment, to stay safe. But deep within you is a radiance that was never meant to be hidden. It is not loud or boastful. It doesn't seek applause. It simply is, a steady glow of truth, beauty, and presence that lives at your core. To live with clarity is to choose to let that light shine, every day, in your own quiet way, and especially when it feels hardest to do so. Your light is not defined by your perfection. It's not dependent on being confident all the time or having your life figured out. In fact, some of the brightest light comes from those who have walked through darkness and chosen to rise anyway. To shine is not to pretend you are unshaken. It is to be honest, humble, and whole in the midst of your humanity. It is to show up with your heart open even after it's been broken. It is to speak truth when silence is easier. It is to act with kindness when the world feels cold. Shining every day doesn't mean being the best or the brightest in the room. It means bringing your whole self to the moment, your intention, your care, your integrity, your presence. It's the courage to offer your gifts, no matter how small they may seem, and to believe that who you are makes a difference. It's the quiet decision to keep going when no one's watching, to do the right thing when no one will know, and to hold yourself to the light even when others don't. There will be people who won't understand your light. Some may feel threatened by it. Some may try to dim it, mock it, or challenge it. Don't let them decide how brightly you live. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to be true to who you are, to live in alignment with your soul, not in reaction to others' shadows. The more consistently you shine from your truth, the more you'll attract those who recognize and respect your light. There will also be days when the world feels heavy and your inner glow seems to flicker. On those days, remember this: shining doesn't mean you always feel radiant. It means you choose to stay connected to your essence, even if the light feels dim. Rest when needed. Reflect when called. But don't give up on your light. Even a candle in the darkness brings hope. Even your gentlest expression of truth adds clarity to the collective. You don't need a stage to shine. You don't need an audience, a title, or a perfect plan. You just need willingness. A willingness to be seen, to be honest, to be real. Your everyday acts of love, courage, and clarity are what light up the world. Every choice you make from your center strengthens your glow. Every moment you show up with intention adds to the quiet brilliance of a life well lived. So shine, every day, in your way. Shine in your thoughts. Shine in your words. Shine in the way you treat yourself and others. Shine when it's easy, and shine especially when it's not. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more light, more authenticity, more soul. You are not here to hide. You are here to illuminate. Shine every day. Shine anyway. And in doing so, you become the very clarity you were always seeking.